So for our YouTube viewers, we now have a graphic from Ben's famed planning spreadsheet showing a consolidated view of the coming game weeks. Ben, please kick us off.
Well, just as for the blanks and double game weeks this season, just to begin with, it's a bit different this year. Well, it's very different compared to previous years. You can see that in game week 18 and 19, there's blanks and doubles coming up. Because they announced when they released the schedule that some of the game week 18 fixtures would be moved to game week 19. The reason for this is partly to do with the winter break. I remember last year you had a winter break where half of the game week 25 fixtures were moved and played over 2 weekends, and there was a 3 midweek in between. But this year you've got the game week 18 fixtures being moved to the midweek after game week 19. So it's it just causes a major hurdle in the FPL schedule because of all these blanks and doubles. The problem is we don't know the fixtures yet. We don't know which games are going to get moved, and we think and we hope that they're going to be announced before game week 16, which is the deadline for the first wildcard. And then later on, it's not the same kind of end to the season that we normally get. Normally, you get the double game week in game week 37, and
I think a good place to start, just because we talked off air about this, but I think for those managers that have got the wild card, let's just talk through the process of what would have to happen in order for us not to have the fixtures by game week 16, because there is a small possibility of it. I think I can see people with wild card panicking now, but I think from speaking to Ben off air, so Ben, do you want to just talk through the criteria of what would have to happen in order for us not to have those fixtures in game week 16?
Well, we're expecting the January fixtures to be announced in one go, because in the last announcement we got all the December fixtures, and then the previous one was all the November fixtures, and that's what they've been tending to do this year. And so if the January fixtures were announced after the game week 16 deadline, that you'd get the game week 17 would be 6 days in advance, 5 days in advance, and that wouldn't give fans much time to arrange their travel or do all the coronavirus testing or all that. It would be a scheduling nightmare, and you'd expect that the TV fixtures, the TV companies will want to advertise their TV picks in game week 15 for the January games or in game week 16. So there's maybe a small possibility, but just there's a few reasons why we should be confident that they'll be announced by game week 16, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think I feel a little bit more relieved actually. Now they're allowing fans back in. The reality is that if they are changing kickoff times for those January the 2nd or that round of fixtures, they need to give the fans as much notice as possible for all those reasons. And like you said, they'll announce them in one go, won't they? They've been consistent with that since, it's only been 1 month at a time, but they have been consistent with that. So yeah, hopefully. I think you also saying before, even if they don't, it still can be a potential advantage for wildcarders. I mean, what would you thought beyond that? Let's say it's getting to December the 28th and there's no fixtures. There'll be a little bit of panic in the Hopcroft and Crellin household, I'm sure. So what would be your thoughts on that?
There are teams you can target, like Spurs have a good run of fixtures from them, even if they don't get a double game week. Yeah. You just build a squad for the whole chunk of 6 game weeks coming up, and you see how the fixtures fall, and if they fall right for you, you can bench boost and free hit, and then you can just use your chips differently depending on how the fixtures fall. But you just got to use your wild card to build a good team for the fixtures coming up.
In terms of what you expect, Ben, in terms of when the fixture will be announced for January and the time that people are going to have to actually build their wildcard teams as well, what's kind of your expectation there, or your thoughts there?
So the game week 16 deadline is on the 28th of December.
Yeah.
And so they could only be announced around game week 14, 15 kind of time is when I'm expecting them. So you might only get 4 days, 3 or 4 days. Wow. So yeah.
We'll have to have an emergency podcast in there, Adam, by the sound of it.
I'd be, if I get a day, I'm happy. I can live with that. Christmas is cancelled.
Christmas is cancelled. Don't have a big
Kids.
Christmas. Don't travel to your relatives. Just stay at home and plan your wildcard team.
Wildcard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Kids go on the PlayStation. Dad needs his time to pick his wildcard team. I don't think there's any issues with that. So as long as we get a day, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So for that kind of initial one, then we think that wildcarders are going to be okay. They should have a few days to sort out their wildcard team, obviously with blank game week 18, as you mentioned, and double game week 19 in mind. What about people without their wildcard? So what about me, Ben? What do I need to start thinking about kind of now or in the upcoming weeks about my team to prepare myself the best I can, apart from red arrows?
I guess I'd say you maybe want to make sure that you've got like 15 players who are playing, or maybe the outfield players, at least the 13 outfielders.
Yeah.
Get rid of any dead wood, improve there, and then try and save transfers, because if we get an announcement saying game week 14, it could come as early as game week 14 or maybe even 13. You just want to have 2-3 transfers available when they get announced so you can react. So yeah, just think about saving transfers as we get in the next couple of game weeks maybe.
And just to be absolutely clear, Ben, and this is for me, maybe as much as everyone else, the 4 teams who didn't have a game week 1, will they definitely have a double game week in game week 19?
No, not definitely.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Yeah, the only thing we know is that like between 4 and 6 of the game week 18 fixtures will move to game week 19.
Right.
And so some teams will have the midweek off on January the 12th, and some teams will have the midweek off on January the 19th.
Right, I see.
They could see that as like a winter break, and so they might not want to move the game week 1 blanks into there.
I see.
It depends. It depends. They might not view it that way, and they might have always been planning on moving the game week 1 blanks there. So most teams will play twice in game weeks 18 and 19, either 2 single game weeks or a blank and a double. But there's a chance that the teams who have already had blanks could play 3 times in those 2 game weeks, either going single. Yeah, they'd just be going single, double.
I think, like, looking at what we've seen so far with the scheduling, I don't think the Premier League care at all about giving them a winter break. And I personally think they'll want to get the games done as quickly as possible, because if other things happen, FA Cup, COVID issues happen, they're going to want the spare weeks in the future to deal with those, not kind of back end everything. Is my view.
It's not for great purposes, though, is it? It's for the TV. It's to appease the TV companies, I thought.
It is for the TV. It's just the FA Cup is either side of it, and so if teams are planning on like giving their top players a break at the FA Cup, they can get like 10 days off.
Yeah.
So that might be a good time, but maybe they won't bother with that. I mean, there is like a backup plan maybe that they've got with Man City qualifying for the Champions League and Man United looking like they're probably going to qualify for the next round. You can see that the Champions League restarts in game week 24-25, and because it's staggered, they've got the last 16 staggered. There'll be a free midweek then for Man City and Man United, and so they could use those weeks to play the game week 1 blanks.
Okay.
That's...
So the headlines are, for people still with their first wild card, you'll probably have a few days to sort out your team when we get the fixtures, a few days over Christmas. For non-wild carders, so those who've used their first wild card, like me, we don't really know what we're looking for, but just get a playing bench is probably your advice, Ben. For that. No, that sounds good.
Do you think so? I know I've seen your strategies, Ben, but without seeing the fixtures, and that is a key caveat here because we don't know how they fall and how they fall for our teams. But do you think free hit in game week 18 with the lower fixtures is the optimal option for what you know at the moment, Ben?
Yeah, I do, definitely, because we've never had a week like this where there's a blank followed by a double, and that the double contains all the blanks from the previous week. So it's such a massive hurdle. You can't really get to all those double game week teams without free hitting first. It just allows you to really attack the double. But I mean, if you haven't got a wild card and you find that your team is well set up for maybe like the blank game week and not the double, you could you could even like free hit in the double instead. You've got to wait and then set a chip plan based on the fixtures. It'll be different for everybody really, but I think the most popular plan will be to free hit in game week 18.
And would people that have used their wild card, if they were to use the wild card and the free hit in this game week 18-19 strategy, would they potentially handicap themselves further down the line for other double game weeks and unknowns?
Yeah, possibly. You can see the schedule later in the season. The only kind of like similarity we've got to previous years is that the quarterfinals, the FA Cup quarterfinals, are definitely going to cause blanks because there's an international break straight afterwards. But we don't know how they're going to get moved. It's not going to be like a big double game week at the end of the season like we're used to. They could be spread out. There's 3 midweeks after the EFL Cup final, after the FA Cup semi-finals, and after the FA Cup final, which is during the season this year. And yeah, they could all be moved to game week 26. They could be spread out on Champions League nights. So the wild card might not be as useful later in the season as it normally is. But there's so much uncertainty. We just don't know how it's going to go really.
The thing is, as well, even if you max out on double game week plays in game week 19 using the wild card, your team is then packed full of those players. You haven't got that kind of rounded squad, have you then? So that's maybe not the best idea. But maybe if you have used the first wild card, just kind of fighting your way through the blank, as Ben said in game week 18, and then maybe kind of using your free hit in 19, sounds to me like something I think would be probably more beneficial, and then kind of holding the wild card to set yourself up for the rest of the season at the time when your team really needs it. Obviously, we're looking at this, Adam, from very different perspectives, which is really
of
good.
Course we are.
Yeah. So
I'm thinking my strategy, and I think it's in line with Ben's at the moment, is a wild card. As soon as the fixtures are announced, and I'm confident if I can get an advantage in 15 as well, I'll go as early as I can do. But I plan to wild card, free hit in 18, and set my team up for the double game week. And I think I plan to bench boost in that because I don't know about you guys, but I find that's the chip that it's the hardest to carry because you just want to then focus on your starting 11 and not have to worry about having a great playing bench. So I think I'll look to get rid of the bench boost, but I think it's the one I'd be happy. And I think the triple captain could be really useful later in the season, particularly because if you look at the teams that we've got doubles for, the likes of Man United, Man City, and then the team that have got the best player in the league in Jack Grealish. I think that Grealish is a perfect triple captain option later in the season. So I think or De Bruyne or Fernandes. So I think that's the way that I would play it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Ben. Is there anything that you would do differently, maybe other than triple captain Grealish?
No, I just try and keep it simple to begin with. Before you see the fixtures, I look to use the bench boost in what I think is going to be the biggest double game week, and triple captain in a smaller double game week, because you always get multiple double game weeks in a year, and we'll get that again this year. So yeah, just Man City versus Aston Villa is yet to be scheduled. That could form a nice little double game week to triple captain just hold the triple captain and look to bench boost in game week 19. I mean, you don't have to fill your team with 15 double game week players. There could be plenty of good single game week options, and they could help your team longer term as well. So yeah, it's just about if you're going to wild card in game week 16, don't just focus on game week 19. Just try and build a team that can put you in a good position for all the game weeks as a whole, up to like game week 23 or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because the tendency is with double game weeks is to go all out. Even if you're filling your team full of dross players. I agree. I echo exactly what you've said, that you're better off not going all out. I think actually the optimum score isn't usually always double game weekers. So I think you do have to balance it out for the long term. But what it does allow you to do is actually have. I think what you'll tend to find this year is actually the bench options are going to be quite good as well. Because if you look around at the moment, I think some great value in the game. So I think we should be able to get. If you look at, I don't want to big him up, and I feel bad saying this, but Fergie's team's okay, and he's got 15 playing players, so that would be an adequate bench boost team. So depending on the fixtures.
I think that's why I've tried to get to it. We talked all this, didn't we, in terms of strategies at the start of the season. I mentioned it a few weeks ago again now, and I think we were saying if COVID issues impact, probably not really believing it would happen until we saw it, maybe. But now it has happened. Just for example, I'll show my team later, but I'm not happy, right? But I'm covered. Whereas I'm looking at a lot of teams are not covered, and they got a lot of issues. So I do think it's worthwhile spreading the cash around your team, and having playing players. We just mentioned then about teams who've got nice single game weeks in game week 19. So Ben, I've got the slide up now. So this is off the hub fixture ticker showing the games for game week 18 and 19, and right at the top, for example, so West Ham at the moment have got two lovely home games. So they're home to West Brom in 18, home to Burnley in 19. Arsenal are home to Palace and Newcastle in both. Wolves are home in both to Everton and West Brom. Man City have got Brighton and Palace there. Even Leeds are home to Southampton, home to Brighton as well. So a lot of teams there potentially you could jump on maybe at that time. Looking forward and not specifically at that game week.
Yeah, this is a part of the season where you get the whole of the league either going home and home or away and away. And you can see that 18 and 19 fixtures, about half of these fixtures are going to get moved to game week 19. So West Ham are either going to go West Brom at home and Burnley at home, two nice fixtures, or they're going to have them both in game week 19. There would be two great fixtures. West Ham, Arsenal, I'm not sure about them. We'll have to see how they, because you wouldn't want to invest in Aubameyang just for that double game week and then have him in your squad for the next few weeks, would you?
I think we have to see, because we are only in game week 11, and things do change, and if Arsenal really start playing, but at the moment, I'd be laughable. Really,
at the moment, no, but if he finds a form from the end of last season, it could be a different conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then on the next slide, you've got the whole fixtures from game week 16 to 23. And I don't know if you've got that up now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like some teams you want to go for even if they don't get the double game week. So say Man City's fixtures, Crystal Palace in 19, West Brom in 20, and then Sheffield United in 21, but Burnley in 22. You'd want a Man City player, even if they don't have a double game week, you'd want them in your team. Same with a lot of teams like Spurs, Leeds, you'd want them for Brighton at home. And then some of the double game week teams you'd probably want to avoid even if they get a double game week. Like obviously Crystal Palace have got the worst possible double game week fixtures with Arsenal away, Man City away.
Yeah.
So it's just about looking at the picture as a whole, realizing that you can bench boost, or you could even triple captain in game week 19, and making sure that you create like a transfer plan maybe to deal with the game week, so you can field good starting 11s in all game week 20, 21, 22, etc.
If only there was a transfer planner around which we could use to plan out every single week. We'll touch on that in a bit now, Ben, when we get to your team. One question I've got, Ben. So obviously a massive fan of your work, but I do find that the chips, and maybe this is just the way I've played them, right? So I probably haven't optimized in the best way, or I've overthought them. But my personal experience of chips over the last 3 seasons is that they've actually hindered my progress, and it's probably because I've maybe started planning like a bit too early. We've had blanks in 28, just for example. So I've started thinking about things, maybe gaming 24 or 25 and taking out certain players, bringing in certain players. I found they really kind of hindered me. This season potentially, because things are much more spread out, and you said, we're very likely not going to have these massive game weeks later on, the doubles and things. Do you think this is a season now where, we should look to save some chips back to the end, or do you think because it's so spread, we should maybe just, look game week to game week at the kind of optimal time at that time to kind of use them? What are your thoughts on that?
With the chips, I think you can see that game week 18 and game week 19 will be the biggest hurdle in the season.
Yeah.
And so you use your free hit or your wild card then, and you'll probably want to use either a triple captain or bench boost in game week 19.
Wow.
And that doesn't leave you with many chips left over. You can use your wild card if you want to around the FA Cup quarterfinals to deal with that. You might want to use a strategy where you gradually build a team that is good for game week 29 with your free transfers, and then wild card afterwards. But yeah, I'm not. This isn't the kind of season where I'm saving my second wild card for a big double game week in game week 37, because it just doesn't look likely that that's going to happen.
Wow. So from game week 19 or 20, you reckon that most people will only have a triple captain or bench boost left, really?
A triple captain and a wild card, maybe. Just those two chips, possibly if you're able to keep that, yeah.
But you think that holding the chips like we have done historically may not be as beneficial as in previous years, then, by the sound of it?
No, because game week 18-19 just looks like the biggest hurdle of the season, unless we get a whole game weeks that are disrupted by COVID in December, January. Then you might get a game week later, but you can't see that happening with any confidence.
Isn't it possible then, so with the FA Cup quarterfinals, if some of the bigger teams reach there with all the premium players, that's possible that could cause some disruption, and it'd be beneficial to have a wild card or another chip play at that point?
Yeah, I think because free hit is going to be so useful in game week 18, you plan on that then, but then you can use your second wild card to help navigate that part, that time. So
that's what I mean. Yeah.
With your premiums, you can leave some on your bench. You can sell some on if they were to get blanks in game week 29, and then you can wild card them back in game week 30 or 31. I think that's the tentative plan that I'm going for, but it could change. But yeah.
So it's worth having that second wild card for that part of the season, so you've got something to help you get through.
I think it is, but you might want to use it in game week 17 if your team that you've got isn't well set up to deal with game week 18 or game week 19. It might be an option. Just see how your team is when the fixtures are announced, and if you think you need to wild card, and it gives you a big advantage in game week 17, then do it, because you would be able to use free transfers for stuff for the doubles and blanks later on if you need to, and a few hits later on.
Wow. So what would your key piece of advice be then, Ben, for people now, who haven't really thought about it? What should people be thinking about now?
You don't need to think too much. It's about waiting for these fixtures to be announced, really. If you don't have your wild card left, then try and have your two free transfers around game week 14-15 time for when they might be announced. If you've got your wild card left, just plan to use it in game week 15 or 16, and make a plan to dead end your team in either game week 15 is the final week, or game week 14. I've set my team up to go to game week 15 and then wild card in game week 16. There are a few teams like Aston Villa who I'd want to keep until then, and wild card.
Got a question.
Just going to the chat. Yeah. Rhino Leeds has put a good option here. So he said what about dead ending your team to game week 18? So I assume that would cover the blank game week. Wild carding in 19, and then using the free hit in 29 to navigate the cup semi-final double game week?
That's an option, but then you're not using like a chip that improves your score in game 19. You're not getting to use bench boost or triple captain, and you can see the way that I just noticed before when we looked at the fixtures in 18-19. It's double home games for half the teams who will have a double game week in game week 19. So that could be a great triple captaincy option if you're not bench boosting.
And plus, I suppose again, we kind of mentioned it earlier. If you are wildcard in 19, you're setting your team up basically for 1 week instead of looking at the next whatever it is, 4, 6, 8 games as well, aren't you? So
yeah.
Oh, really good stuff there. We've had a lot of positive comments in the chat, Ben. Gaurav, thank you from all the FPL family. Your work and info is super helpful. Rody G. So this is Ben Crellin on behalf of FF players everywhere. Thank you very much. And we've had some more nice ones as well. So anyone who doesn't know or hasn't heard of Ben Crellin, hop onto Fantasy Football Hub and download his transfer planner. It is an absolute work of art, as we will show you in a few minutes. Okay, so any final points or questions there, around the blanks or doubles? I think I'm pretty clear now on kind of what I need to do. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, no, I think given that we don't know the fixtures, I think Ben's done a really good job at talking for options. So Ben, I've got one final question for you. The fixtures come live. What do you do first? Do you update Twitter and start posting and informing all your 80,000 followers, whatever you have now? Or do you think, do you know what, I'm going to go into my planner and look at my team first?
No, I go on Twitter, I say the fixtures are there, I update my spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I post screenshots of my spreadsheets. Then later on that day, I'll go and look at my team. But yeah, I've got to get the information out there as quickly as possible.
Good. Well, that's why you're followed by so many people, putting the fans first. Great to hear.
Incredible work, Ben. Thank you very much.